Seismic shifts in the Middle East have been coming fast and furiously. But what do they all mean? Best-selling author Joel Rosenberg takes us inside the world's hotspot with his first nonfiction book in more than a decade. Take a look.
Do recent changes in the Middle East signal peace? One Arab country after another is signing historic, game-changing peace, trade, investment, and tourism deals with Israel. At the same time, Russia, Iran, and Turkey are forming a highly dangerous alliance that could threaten the Western powers. Meanwhile, the U.S. is drawing down its military forces in the Mideast and focusing on matters closer to home. Where's it all heading? New York Times best-selling author Joel C. Rosenberg explains the rapidly shifting landscape in Israel and the Arab-Muslim world in a new book, Enemies and Allies, an unforgettable journey inside the fast-moving and immensely turbulent modern Middle East.
Well, Joel Rosenberg is with us right now. This is his book, Enemies and Allies. I believe it's published by Tyndale, and it may be just today may be the day of his publication. Joel, it's good to have you with us. What do you see in the Middle East? Are we going toward war or a new era of peace?
Well, Pat, it's great to be with you. But I want to tell you, as I describe in this book, Enemies and Allies, you got two competing contradictory trend lines in the Middle East. On the one side, you've got radical Islamists who feel emboldened and who are, and in Iran, they are dangerously close to building nuclear weapons that could lead to a nuclear 9/11 and a second Holocaust of Israel. That's the one side. And President Biden's surrender to the Taliban has emboldened the radical Islamists even further. That's one. But the second side is positive. It's good news. And that is 4 Arab nations in the last year have made peace with Israel, brokered by President Trump. And these Abraham Accords are evidence of huge positive tectonic change in the region of attitudes towards Jews, towards Israel, and towards Christians. And I document all this as the first book of its kind that tells the inside story of both of these trends, Enemies and Allies.
Joel, you concentrated a lot on this book on Erdogan in Turkey. How bad a guy is he?
He's a disaster. Turkey, I love Turkey. I've been there many times. Of course, it's a country in the Bible, Asia Minor. Paul wrote a lot of the gospel, the epistles there and to there. But under Erdogan, this NATO ally, this moderate Muslim country, is turning to the dark side. And most Americans, and even most in Washington, are not paying attention to the fact that Recep Erdogan, the president of Turkey, is turning away from the United States, away from Israel, away from the Western alliance, and is building an alliance with Russia and Iran. And this is incredibly dangerous. And again, this is the first book that really gets in, tells the story of who is Erdogan, why is he doing what he's doing, and why is it significant?
Well, you know, Joel, I'm a fan of Ezekiel 38. I think that war is coming. But the coalition deals a lot. Gog and Magog is all there in Persia. I mean, in Turkey, isn't it? I mean, that's a major, major factor in that particular war.
Well, that's right. And there is a chapter later in Enemies and Allies in which I talk about what do Christians believe based on Bible prophecy is coming in the Middle East in the future. And yes, as you and I have talked about it, I've written other books in more detail about Ezekiel 38 and 39. But I believe the prophecy is clear. Russia, Iran, Turkey, Sudan, Algeria, Libya, and a few other countries will surround and attack Israel in the last days of history. The prerequisite, of course, is that Israel has to be reborn as a country and become prosperous and successful and strong. Well, that has happened. And now the question is are the chess pieces being moved on the board right now to prepare for Ezekiel 38 and 39? I'm not prepared to draw that conclusion, but as I deal in the front part of the book of Enemies and Allies, Russia, Iran, and Turkey, and Libya and Sudan are, well, not Sudan yet, are forming an alliance, and it's worth watching because it's very, very dangerous.
You also were talking about prosperity. You laid out the GDP of some of these Arab countries, and if they all make peace with Israel, it could be an economic bonanza for the whole area.
That's right. I actually talk about investors are calling it a new gold rush, right? It used to be that it was black gold. It was oil that was the driver in the Middle East, but it's changing now. First of all, Israel's discovered massive amounts of natural gas. That's making us energy independent, and we're becoming a net exporter of energy. But it's really high tech, and the opportunity for Arab money to invest in Israeli technology. This is a huge opportunity. And, you know, we're coming up not only on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and this disastrous Biden surrender to radical Islamism, but we're also coming up next week to the 1-year anniversary of the Abraham Accords. And I believe, Pat, that the next country to watch for is Saudi Arabia. I do believe that they are actively weighing in Riyadh. Is it time for Saudi Arabia to make peace, one, for the economic benefits, but even more importantly, to form a Middle East NATO, an Arab-Israeli NATO, as it were, to stand strong as an alliance against the Iranian regime, against the Iranian nuclear threat, especially as Biden appears to be retreating from the Middle East?
You mentioned the fact that you've had meetings with, what is it, I forget the initial.
Mohammed bin Salman, Mohammed bin Zayed, President El-Sisi, King Abdullah. Yeah, this is the first book ever that takes you inside those palaces, and you meet and you hear on the record from the most powerful, consequential, and certainly controversial leaders in the Middle East.
Well, Joel, it's a great book. It's wonderful to have you with us, and I hope this is as successful as your other books. It's nonfiction, ladies and gentlemen, but it's right off the pages of the newspapers you read every day. Joel Rosenberg, Enemies and Allies. It's available, published by Tyndale. It's available wherever books are sold. Joel, thanks again for being with us.
Great to be with you, Pat. Thank you for standing strong with Israel. God bless you.
We'll do it.